All right, so we have Tom Segura interviewing Quentin Tarantino on Two Bears, One Cave. He was in Bert's spot. I guess Bert couldn't make it, which is probably a good thing because I don't know how this would have went if he was there. Like this comment says, it's a good thing he wasn't there interrupting every 3 seconds. And Quentin is the only person that can talk about himself more than Bert. So if these two were together, I don't know how that would go. It was a smart move from Tom keeping him off this one, especially because this is a huge guest for them. And even Tom was caught lacking a little bit here, but this did make the podcast even better. So while Quentin was on here, he was promoting a book that he has out that it sounded like he wanted to talk about while he's on the podcast, and Tom sounded like he wanted to talk about it. But the problem is Tom didn't do his homework, and he only read like a couple pages, or he only listened to the audio tape for a couple minutes, which Quentin did not seem happy about. But to be honest, it didn't affect the interview at all. It was still a good podcast and everything. And I actually think it made it even better because then at the end, Quentin knew that Tom wasn't that far into the book and he wanted to just roast him for it. So he's like, so what part are you on exactly? And then Tom describes the first couple of pages and Quentin just starts roasting him for being unprepared. And the fans loved it. Most of the comments were talking about how great it was watching Tom get scolded for not doing his reading like he's in middle school or something. So like I said, right in the beginning of the podcast, Tom says that he just started the book and he's listening to it on an audio tape, and Quentin did not sound very happy about that.
Also want to point out you have a new book out, Cinema Speculation.
Right on.
I told you I've begun the audiobook. I think I might switch.
Exactly. Yeah, your stock went way down when you said that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Probably wasn't the really best way to say hello.
Sorry. I just wanted to let you know that I was actually consuming the material.
I appreciate that.
It also sounds like he might not have been happy with Tom listening to the audio tape and not reading it. And then right after this, Tom starts talking about the book like he knows enough to have a conversation about it, but you could tell he didn't read it and he doesn't really know what he's talking about, and he's just trying to bullshit his way through it. And to be fair to Tom, did anyone really expect him to read this? I'd be pretty shocked if he did. But I mean, I'm surprised he didn't just have one of his employees read it and then like give him the footnotes for it or something.
You were exposed to like such a, I mean, this book is like a dive into your, how I grew up. Because everybody, I think fans of you, of movies in general, kind of knew the story of Quentin worked at a video store.
Yeah.
And he really likes movies. And then and I've seen you in interviews cite, refer to other movies from the past. Like it was clear that you were a real fan of cinema. Yeah, a cinephile. But this gets at you in from like the beginning, like how you, as a kid, you were being taken by your mother and going to movies all the time.
So by this point, I'm sure Quentin realized that he probably didn't read like any of it and he only just got a few pages in. But at least he waited till the very end of the podcast to bring that up, and then he just started going in on him and roasting him for it, and it was funny. I think Quentin's also a fan of comedy, so he's probably a little angry that I didn't read the book, but he also thought it'd probably be funny if he just roasted him for it, and people did think it was funny. People loved it, and people are calling him out for being lazy. This person said, it shows you how much work these hard-working comedians do. He listened to 5 minutes of the audiobook as the prep for the largest interview he's probably ever going to do on his podcast, and yeah, he probably should have read it, or just said I didn't read it at all, like I didn't have the time to read it. Instead, it seemed like he was stuck in the middle and he kind of had to pretend like he knew what he was talking about. Or maybe Quentin told him to read it and he wanted to talk about it possibly. I don't know, but if I were Tom, I would have been like, yeah, I didn't read it, but I've seen all your movies, so I think that's enough research. All right, so now let's just get to the clip here where Quentin's going in on Tom for not reading his book.
Thank you for
my pleasure
for coming, and congrats on the book.
Well, okay, you said you've been reading it for a little bit. All right, where are you up to now?
I don't know. You are talking about going to. You've started to go to
opening chapter.
Yeah, but I didn't read it. I told you that.
I know. Boy, you were still listening to it.
I was listening to it. Yeah,
so you've listened to the half of the opening chapter.
I got it.
Where in the opening chapter did you arrive at? When you listened to it today for the first time, as you drove from your house to the studio today.
Not today.
When you pulled up today, where was that?
I swear to God, not today. And I'll tell you where I am. You're at the movies.
Okay.
That's where you're at in this one. You're somewhere at the movies.
Well, that narrows it down.
Well, somewhere.
Oh, when I'm watching the Jim Brown movie?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, that's it. The Jim Brown movie. Yeah, that's what you.
It's about 19.
That's the ticket. That's the ticket.
1970, something like that.
You're literally describing the first 3 pages.
Look, man, I only go by audio. I don't know what pages mean.
You are literally describing the first 3 pages.
Doesn't take away from the fact that I'm a genuine fan.
Okay, no, it doesn't.
And I asked good questions.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Could have been a little bit more in depth on the manuscript that I'm here to talk about, but nevertheless.
Yeah, so there it is. And Tom probably should have expected something like this because Quentin Tarantino does take this stuff very seriously. And he probably wanted to have a conversation about the book and the movies in the book. And Tom was just not prepared at all. He pulled a LeBron with this one. If you didn't know, LeBron's always walking around pretending to read books, but he's always on the first page. And one time a reporter asked him a question about the book, and he just didn't know what to say.
Alex Haley, I don't know how far you are into the book, but what's your biggest takeaway so far?
I kind of just started a couple days ago, but I've read and a lot of notes over the years. This is my first time actually reading this from start to finish. But just a very smart man, very smart man, and basically his words in the '60s and what was going on is actually what's going on today still.
Yeah, so with Tom, maybe he learned a lesson here. Maybe he'll start reading. I think Quentin should stay on him with this one and maybe call him in a few weeks to see if he kept reading it and maybe quiz him or something. But this felt like a battle of the egos here because a lot of people are saying they thought Tom's ego was too big and he thought he could go in there without reading the book and just try to bullshit his way through it. And, you know, he didn't need to do any preparation for one of his biggest guests. But then also, obviously, Quentin Tarantino has one of the biggest egos ever, no question about it. And some people probably feel like getting mad at somebody for not reading your book is kind of ridiculous. And only like a massive celebrity would do something like that, which is true. I don't think anybody else would really get pissed if you didn't read their book. Only like a major celebrity. But also, maybe he just thought it was funny that Tom was trying to play it off like he knew what the book was all about, even though he read like 2 pages or something. And it did sound like Quentin might have been looking forward to talking about it. And maybe he even told Tom to read it or something. I don't know. It sounded like he really wanted to talk about it. He's just disappointed that Tom didn't read any of it. But I'm disappointed that Tom never brought up the 13-year-old party girls that Quentin Tarantino used to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. Let me know what you guys think about all this. Then leave me a comment, hit this like button, hit the subscribe button. You know the deal. I'll catch you at the next video.